Ladies and gentlemen, in life, there are moments when people you care about, people you've invested time, energy, and emotions into, begin to distance themselves from you. They withdraw, they ignore you, and they leave you questioning what went wrong. Maybe you've tried to reach out, you've tried to understand their silence, but all your efforts seem futile. You might find yourself in a position where you're stuck, wondering how to make sense of their actions or how to deal with the overwhelming feeling of being left behind. You start questioning your worth, your value, and whether you've done something wrong. The truth is, the answer doesn't lie in trying to win them back or trying to change yourself to fit into their mold. It lies within you and how you choose to respond to this challenge, how you navigate the space they've created between you and them, and how you rebuild yourself after feeling disconnected or abandoned. Focus on your growth and your journey. The first thing you must realize is that people's actions often have very little to do with you and everything to do with their own personal journey. They may have their own struggles, their own insecurities, or they may simply be in a phase of life where they need space to grow in a way that doesn't involve you. But this is not a reflection of your worth. It is a reflection of their capacity to handle their own challenges, and it may have nothing to do with your relationship or anything you have done. It's natural to feel hurt when people withdraw. It's easy to take it personally, to internalize their behavior, and wonder if you are somehow lacking or unworthy. But let's be clear about something: you are not defined by how others treat you. You are defined by how you treat yourself, by how you view yourself, and by how you carry yourself in the world. When someone distances themselves, it may sting. It might even feel like a rejection of your value, but it is important to reframe the situation. Instead of seeing their distancing as an attack on your worth, see it as an opportunity for you to invest more deeply in your own self-discovery. When people ignore you, it's easy to fall into the trap of seeking validation from them. We often crave approval, connection, and understanding from others. But there comes a time when you must learn to validate yourself. You don't need anyone's permission to be who you are. You don't need anyone's approval to walk your path. Their distance is an opportunity for you to reconnect with the most important relationship in your life, the one you have with yourself. Stop seeking outside validation. Stop waiting for someone to tell you that you matter, because you already matter. The fact that they've distanced themselves is not a reflection of your worth. It's simply a reflection of where they are in their own life journey. It's their journey, and you must not allow it to dictate the direction of yours. Take this time to become more in tune with yourself. Reflect on your goals, your desires, and your aspirations. What do you truly want in life? What is it that drives you? People come and go in your life, but the only constant is you. People will change, relationships will evolve, but you remain. So it's up to you to decide who you want to become during this time of solitude. Will you let their absence define your sense of self-worth, or will you rise above it and find the strength to carry on, regardless of whether or not they are by your side? The truth is, you don't need people to validate your dreams or your potential. Their silence is not a reflection of your value or your future success. It's simply an opportunity to prove to yourself that you can stand on your own, that you can thrive even when others may not be in your corner. Your worth is not contingent on anyone's approval. The world does not revolve around any single individual's perception of you. And it's important to remember that the people who truly care for you will not distance themselves in the first place. Those who leave or ignore you are not meant to walk with you through the rest of your journey, and that's okay. When you find yourself in a situation where someone distances themselves from you, it's essential to practice self-awareness and self-reflection. Don't waste time wondering what you did wrong. Don't get stuck in a cycle of overthinking or self-doubt. Instead, turn inward and ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I grow stronger, more resilient, and more focused on my own path? When we're faced with rejection or abandonment, it's easy to see ourselves as victims of circumstances that life has conspired against us. But the truth is that life is not about waiting for things to go perfectly or for people to act in a way that feels fair or just. Life is about how you choose to respond to what comes your way. And when people distance themselves or ignore you, it's an invitation to rise above the emotional turmoil and focus on your own growth. Instead of focusing on the people who have left, focus on those who remain in your life. Focus on those who value your presence and want to see you thrive. They may not be as many as you hoped, but their impact on your life is immeasurable. Cherish the relationships that nurture and uplift you, and don't waste your energy chasing after those who have chosen to walk away. If they distance themselves, they've made their choice, and it's time for you to make yours. It's also important to recognize that not everyone is meant to stay in your life forever. People enter and exit our lives for different reasons. Sometimes they come into our lives to teach us something, whether it's a lesson about ourselves, about relationships, or about the world around us. When someone distances themselves, it doesn't necessarily mean that you've done anything wrong. It could simply be that your paths are no longer aligned, and that's okay. Life is full of transitions, and not all relationships are meant to last forever. But the important thing is that you grow from each experience. You take the lessons learned and move forward, better equipped to navigate the future. The next step is to embrace the freedom that comes with letting go. When someone distances themselves or ignores you, it's easy to feel like you're losing something. But in reality, you're gaining freedom. You're gaining the opportunity to focus more on your own growth, to discover who you really are without the distraction of trying to fit into someone else's expectations. Letting go of relationships that no longer serve you or that have distanced themselves gives you the space to embrace new opportunities, new people, and new experiences. One of the most powerful things you can do in the face of being ignored or distanced is to keep your energy focused on what matters most, your goals, your passions, your purpose. When others pull away, it's an opportunity to redirect that emotional energy into something productive. Channel your emotions into your work, your creative endeavors, your health, or your personal development. Use the space they've created to take your life in a direction that aligns with your own aspirations. The only opinion that matters is yours. The only validation you need is your own. And when you align yourself with your true purpose, people who resonate with that energy will naturally gravitate towards you. It's easy to fall into the trap of wanting to explain yourself to those who have distanced themselves. You might feel the need to clarify things, to make them understand your perspective, to convince them that you're not the person they think you are. But understand that when someone has chosen to ignore or distance themselves, they have already made up their mind. Their perception of you is based on their own experiences, biases, and emotions, not on the truth of who you are. Trying to change their perspective is often a futile exercise. Instead, focus on staying true to yourself. When people distance themselves or ignore you, it is essential to prioritize your own development rather than seeking validation from others. Their actions do not define your worth. Use this time to reconnect with your goals, reflect on your journey, and become more in tune with yourself. Your value is not dependent on others' approval. Stop seeking external validation and start validating yourself. Recognize that you don't need anyone's approval to walk your path or pursue your dreams. Their silence or withdrawal is an opportunity for you to strengthen your relationship with yourself and trust your own abilities and decisions. People enter and exit your life for various reasons, and not all relationships are meant to last forever. When someone distances themselves, it may simply mean your paths are no longer aligned. Use this as an opportunity to grow and move forward, rather than dwelling on what was lost. Every relationship teaches you something valuable. Instead of getting caught up in emotional turmoil, channel your energy into something productive, whether it's your career, passions, or personal development. Use the space that others have created by distancing themselves to focus on what truly matters to you. This will help you build a life that reflects your true self and attract people who align with your values and goals. When people distance themselves or ignore you, it's natural to feel confused, hurt, or even rejected. You might wonder what you did wrong or why they suddenly chose to step away from you. The emotional pain can feel sharp, especially when the person in question was someone you deeply cared about, someone you trusted, or someone you thought would always be there. However, it's crucial to understand that their distancing doesn't define your worth or your place in the world. Instead, it offers an opportunity for growth, introspection, and a deeper connection with your true self. The key to navigating this emotional landscape is to shift your focus from the external, what they did or how they're treating you, to the internal, your personal growth and sense of self-worth. Understanding your own value. The first and most important realization is that your self-worth is not tied to how others treat you. When someone distances themselves or ignores you, it can trigger deep feelings of inadequacy, self-doubt, or loneliness. However, you must remember that your value is not contingent upon other people's perceptions or actions. Just because someone chooses to withdraw doesn't mean you are any less worthy of love, respect, or kindness. Your worth is intrinsic, it comes from within. Think of your value as a foundation that is steady and unshakable, independent of the fluctuating circumstances around you. People may come and go, and relationships may shift or fade, but the essence of who you are remains constant. You are not defined by the opinions or behavior of others. If you've ever been in a situation where someone's actions made you feel less than or unimportant, ask yourself this: would I allow someone else to dictate my worth, to tell me how valuable I am? The answer is no. Your self-worth should be built on a foundation of internal validation, not external approval. This idea of self-worth extends beyond just relationships. It encompasses your identity, your goals, and your dreams. Who are you independent of others? What do you stand for? What is your purpose? These are the things that should define you, not the transient nature of how others treat you. When someone pulls away, it's easy to get lost in questions of why me or what did I do wrong, but the reality is that your value doesn't diminish because of someone else's behavior. Instead of focusing on the external circumstances, ask yourself how you can strengthen your internal foundation, your sense of self-worth. The power of self-reflection. The process of focusing on your personal growth begins with self-reflection. When people distance themselves from you, it can serve as a catalyst for deeper introspection. While it's tempting to analyze the situation from the standpoint of what went wrong with them, it's far more productive to turn the mirror inward and reflect on your own life. What can you learn from this experience? What is this situation revealing about you? Rather than internalizing the pain or seeing it as a reflection of your inadequacies, view it as an opportunity to understand yourself better. Self-reflection is about looking at your actions, thoughts, and emotions objectively. In times of emotional pain, it can be difficult to be honest with yourself, but this is the moment when honesty is most needed. Take a step back and assess the situation from a place of neutrality. Is there something in your own behavior that you can learn from? Are there patterns you notice in your relationships that keep repeating? Sometimes the way people behave toward us is a mirror of how we treat ourselves or how we allow ourselves to be treated. Self-reflection doesn't mean blaming yourself or overanalyzing your actions. It simply means being curious about your feelings and your responses. It's about acknowledging your emotions, sitting with them, and allowing them to guide you toward greater self-awareness. This deeper understanding of yourself will not only help you make sense of the situation, but will also give you insight into how you can grow and evolve as an individual. For example, if someone distances themselves and it causes you emotional distress, consider why it affects you so deeply. Do you rely heavily on others for your sense of worth? Do you have a fear of abandonment or rejection that has been triggered? These realizations can point to areas in your life where you need to nurture your own emotional resilience. When you take the time to reflect, you might uncover hidden insecurities or old wounds that need healing. This is an opportunity to do the inner work needed to become more self-reliant, confident, and emotionally whole. Self-compassion and acceptance. During moments of distance or rejection, it's important to practice self-compassion. It's easy to fall into the trap of being harsh on yourself, thinking that there's something wrong with you because someone has chosen to pull away. But this kind of self-talk only reinforces negative beliefs and erodes your sense of worth. Instead, try to approach yourself with the same compassion that you would offer a close friend who was going through a similar experience. Self-compassion means accepting yourself with all your flaws, mistakes, and imperfections. It means being kind to yourself even when you don't feel like you're measuring up or when others seem to be turning away. If you make a mistake, it's important to recognize it without beating yourself up. If a relationship doesn't work out, it's okay to mourn the loss, but don't let it define your sense of value. You are not a failure because someone chose to distance themselves. You are simply human, complex, evolving, and deserving of love and respect, regardless of any external circumstances. To practice self-compassion, acknowledge your feelings without judgment. Allow yourself to feel hurt, sadness, anger, or confusion without criticizing yourself for those emotions. Recognize that you are not alone in feeling this way. Everyone faces rejection at some point in their life. What matters is how you choose to treat yourself in the aftermath. When you practice self-compassion, you give yourself permission to heal and grow, rather than remaining stuck in negative self-perception. In moments when you feel rejected or abandoned, it may help to remind yourself of your accomplishments, your strengths, and the qualities that make you unique. Recall times when you succeeded, when you were kind to others, when you overcame obstacles. These moments are a testament to your resilience and inner strength. The more you practice self-compassion, the more you'll begin to see that your worth is not tied to external validation. You are enough just as you are. Building emotional resilience. Part of focusing on personal growth and self-worth is cultivating emotional resilience, the ability to bounce back from setbacks and face life's challenges with strength and grace. People will come and go, and there will be times when others distance themselves for reasons beyond your control. Building emotional resilience means learning how to weather these storms without losing yourself in the process. Emotional resilience is not about suppressing your feelings or pretending that everything is okay. It's about developing the strength to move through difficult emotions without allowing them to derail your sense of self. This involves acknowledging your emotions, processing them in a healthy way, and finding ways to stay grounded when things feel uncertain. One way to build emotional resilience is through mindfulness practices. Mindfulness teaches you to observe your thoughts and emotions without judgment. Instead of getting caught up in the narrative of why someone is ignoring you or why they distance themselves, mindfulness helps you stay present and focus on what you can control. It allows you to step outside the emotional reaction and see things from a broader perspective. Another key aspect of emotional resilience is learning to let go. Often we hold on to relationships, situations, or expectations that no longer serve us. We struggle to let go because we fear the uncertainty that comes with change. But holding on to something that isn't working only prolongs your suffering. When someone distances themselves, it's a sign that it's time to release your attachment to them. Letting go doesn't mean you don't care about the person. It simply means that you are choosing to prioritize your own growth and well-being. The more you practice letting go, the more resilient you become in the face of life's inevitable changes. Building emotional resilience also involves developing a strong sense of self-empowerment. When someone pulls away, it's important to remember that you are still in control of your life and your emotional responses. You may not have control over their actions, but you have control over how you react to the situation. You can choose to remain grounded in your sense of self-worth, even in the face of distance or rejection. Emotional resilience empowers you to take charge of your own emotional landscape rather than being a passive participant in your own story. The role of personal growth in overcoming rejection. When someone distances themselves from you, it's an opportunity to shift the narrative from victimhood to empowerment. Instead of focusing on what you're losing or what's not working, you can use this time to focus on your own personal growth. Rejection, distance, and isolation can often feel like an emotional setback, but they can also be the catalyst for incredible transformation. Personal growth is about becoming the best version of yourself, independent of anyone else's opinion. It's about working on your mindset, your habits, your skills, and your emotional intelligence. It's about learning how to thrive regardless of external circumstances or other people's behavior. In fact, the more you focus on your own growth, the less power you give to others to affect your emotional state. You become less dependent on others for your happiness and fulfillment, and more focused on living a life that aligns with your true values and purpose. This is why focusing on your growth is such a powerful response to being ignored or distanced. Instead of spiraling into self-doubt, you can choose to invest your energy in your own self-improvement. Whether it's picking up a new skill, pursuing a passion, or improving your emotional health, every step you take toward growth helps you reclaim your power and reinforces your sense of. When we're faced with the painful experience of someone distancing themselves or ignoring us, it's easy to fall into the trap of seeking external validation to fill the emotional void. We long for someone's approval, understanding, or acknowledgement to reassure us that we are worthy of love, attention, or respect. Yet this craving for external validation often leaves us feeling more empty and powerless because the truth is, we cannot control how others treat us or what they think of us. True empowerment comes when we shift our focus away from seeking validation from others and begin to embrace self-validation. Self-validation means recognizing and affirming your own worth and value independent of others' approval or perceptions. It's about affirming your intrinsic value as a person regardless of how others behave towards you, what they say, or whether they even acknowledge you at all. When you validate yourself, you are no longer dependent on others for your sense of self-worth. Instead, you find peace and strength from within. This process of self-validation can be transformative, allowing you to live a more empowered, confident, and fulfilling life, free from the constant need for external affirmation. It's important to understand that self-validation is not about arrogance or being overly self-reliant to the point of isolating yourself from others. It's about acknowledging and accepting who you are, understanding your feelings, that external validation is fleeting. People change, opinions shift, and praise can be given one moment and taken away the next. If your sense of worth is based solely on how others view you, you will constantly be at the mercy of their ever-changing perceptions. Self-validation begins with self-awareness. By becoming more attuned to your own emotions and needs, you begin to recognize when you're relying too heavily on external sources for validation. For example, when someone distances themselves from you or ignores you, do you find yourself spiraling into self-doubt or feeling like you are somehow inadequate? Do you feel unworthy because someone chose not to acknowledge your efforts or reciprocate your energy? These feelings are signals that you are giving too much power to others' opinions. Self-awareness is the key to breaking free from this cycle. By tuning into your emotions and understanding the underlying beliefs that drive your need for validation, you can start to challenge those beliefs. Ask yourself, why do I feel that my worth is tied to someone else's behavior? Why do I need their approval to feel good about myself? You may find that you've been conditioned to seek validation because of past experiences, perhaps from childhood or earlier relationships where your sense of worth was consistently measured by how others treated you. These patterns are not easy to break, but with awareness and intentional effort, they can be overcome. The second step in embracing self-validation is learning to acknowledge and celebrate your own achievements. Many of us are quick to downplay our successes or look for validation from others when we accomplish something. We may seek praise from our peers, a congratulatory message from a loved one, or recognition in the form of a reward or accolade. While it's nice to receive recognition from others, it should never be the sole basis for feeling proud of yourself. The truth is, your achievements are valid, regardless of whether anyone else acknowledges them. By taking the time to appreciate your own accomplishments, no matter how small, you reinforce your sense of self-worth. This can be as simple as acknowledging that you worked hard on a project, that you learned something new, or that you took steps to improve yourself in some way. You don't need others to confirm your worth. You are the one who decides what your accomplishments mean. When you validate your own successes, you build a foundation for a deeper sense of confidence and self-respect. This not only reduces your dependence on external validation, but also makes you more resilient when you encounter situations where others may choose to distance themselves or ignore you. In addition to acknowledging your achievements, it's crucial to practice self-compassion. One of the most powerful aspects of self-validation is the ability to treat yourself with kindness, especially in moments when you feel hurt or rejected. It's easy to be hard on yourself when things go wrong or when others withdraw from you. You may find yourself thinking things like, I'm not good enough, or I must have done something wrong. These thoughts are not helpful and only deepen your sense of pain. Self-compassion, on the other hand, is about offering yourself the same understanding and comfort that you would offer a close friend in a similar situation. When you practice self-compassion, you stop criticizing yourself for being human. You allow yourself the space to feel hurt without attaching shame or guilt to those feelings. You acknowledge that it's okay to feel rejected or ignored. It's a part of the human experience. Instead of berating yourself for your emotions, you offer yourself understanding and empathy. This creates a sense of emotional safety, where you can process your feelings without fear of judgment or self-recrimination. Self-compassion also means forgiving yourself when you feel like you've made mistakes or failed in some way. If someone distances themselves and you feel like you could have done something differently, instead of beating yourself up, practice forgiveness. Understand that no one is perfect, and sometimes people drift away for reasons that have nothing to do with you. They may be going through their own struggles, or their path in life may simply be taking them in a different direction. It's not your fault. When you give yourself the grace to forgive, you release the emotional weight that comes with self-blame. Another vital aspect of self-validation is setting healthy boundaries. When people distance themselves or ignore you, it's often because they need space for themselves or they are dealing with their own challenges. While it can be painful, it's important to respect their decision and not chase after their approval. By respecting their boundaries, you show respect for yourself as well. You recognize that your self-worth does not depend on anyone's availability or willingness to engage with you. You don't need others to acknowledge your value for you to know that you are worthy. Setting boundaries also means saying no to relationships or situations that do not honor your worth. If you continually find yourself in relationships where you are ignored or undervalued, it may be time to reevaluate those connections. Self-validation involves recognizing when something is no longer serving you, whether that's a relationship, a job, or a situation, and having the courage to walk away. Just because someone is in your life doesn't mean they should have free access to your time and energy. Protecting your emotional well-being is a form of self-validation, and it allows you to cultivate relationships that are truly reciprocal and supportive. Learning to validate yourself also requires a shift in mindset. It's about changing the way you see yourself. Often we look to others to tell us that we are worthy, that we are capable, that we are lovable. But the truth is, we already possess all of these qualities within us. Validation is not something that is bestowed upon us by others. It is something that we must offer to ourselves. This requires a conscious effort to let go of the belief that you need others to affirm your worth. One powerful practice for self-validation is positive self-talk. The way you talk to yourself matters. If your internal dialogue is filled with criticism, doubt, or negativity, it becomes increasingly difficult to feel good about yourself. To validate yourself, you must be intentional about shifting your self-talk. Start by replacing self-criticism with self-encouragement. Instead of thinking, "I'm not good enough," replace that thought with, "I am doing the best I can, and that's enough." Instead of thinking, "They don't care about me," try, "I am deserving of love and respect, and I don't need anyone else's approval to know that." Positive self-talk isn't about pretending everything is perfect or denying your struggles. It's about offering yourself the same support and encouragement that you would offer someone you care about deeply. When you change the way you speak to yourself, you begin to shift your mindset from one of self-doubt to one of self-assurance. The more you practice self-validation through positive self-talk, the more natural it will become to affirm your worth without seeking outside approval. Ultimately, embracing self-validation is about embracing yourself in totality, the good, the bad, and the messy. It's about accepting that you are imperfect but still worthy of love, respect, and success. When you validate yourself, you stop waiting for others to give you permission to feel good about who you are. You no longer look to others to complete you or define your worth. You are whole as you are. This process of self-validation requires patience and consistency. It's not something that happens overnight, but with time it becomes a natural part of your emotional landscape. The more you practice self-validation, the less power other people's actions or opinions will have over your sense of self. You will be able to weather emotional storms with greater ease, knowing that your worth is constant regardless of what happens outside of you. In the end, the goal is to become so grounded in your own self-validation that no one else's behavior can ever shake your sense of who you are. You will no longer be at the mercy of other people's moods, opinions, or actions. The ebb and flow of relationships are natural and inevitable aspects of life. At some point, we all experience connections that seem to fade or evolve into something different than we initially hoped for. When someone distances themselves from you, ignores you, or no longer engages with you in the same way, it can feel like a personal loss. This sense of rejection or abandonment often triggers feelings of confusion, pain, and sometimes self-doubt. However, accepting the natural flow of relationships, understanding that not every connection is meant to last forever, and learning how to adapt to these changes is key to maintaining your peace and emotional well-being. Relationships, whether they are friendships, romantic partnerships, or even professional connections, are constantly shifting. And embracing this fluidity rather than resisting it can free you from unnecessary heartache and frustration. First and foremost, it's essential to acknowledge that relationships, like all things in life, have cycles. They can begin with a spark of connection, grow into a deep bond, and sometimes over time change, evolve, or come to an end. This isn't a reflection of your worth or of any personal failing, rather, it is part of the natural progression of life. People enter and exit our lives for a variety of reasons, sometimes because they are growing in different directions, sometimes because they have their own struggles or priorities that they need to attend to. And sometimes because life circumstances simply shift in a way that makes it difficult for people to remain as close as they once were. Understanding and accepting this flow of relationships allows us to approach these changes with grace, letting go of attachment to what was and embracing what could be. When we experience a person distancing themselves from us or ignoring us, we can be quick to assume that it's our fault. We may replay conversations in our heads, wondering what went wrong, scrutinizing our behavior or actions for clues, and searching for ways to fix the situation. While it's natural to look for answers when relationships change, it's equally important to remember that relationships are often the result of complex dynamics between two people. The reason someone distances themselves from us may have very little to do with our behavior or intentions. In fact, their reasons might be personal, circumstantial, or related to their own emotional state or growth. They may be going through a difficult period, experiencing challenges that we are unaware of, or simply need time and space for themselves. Recognizing that other people's behavior is often influenced by factors beyond your control can be liberating, as it allows you to let go of unnecessary self-blame and focus on your own emotional resilience. The fluid nature of relationships also means that the depth and intensity of a connection can fluctuate over time. Some relationships are meant to be deeply intimate and long-lasting, while others may serve a more temporary or specific purpose. There are people who come into our lives for a season, a brief period of time during which we are meant to learn something, grow, or offer support to one another. After that season ends, the relationship may naturally taper off, and this doesn't have to be seen as a failure. It's a reminder that not all relationships are meant to last forever, and that the end of one connection can make room for new ones. When we release our attachment to the idea that all relationships must be permanent, we allow ourselves the freedom to appreciate each relationship for what it was while not clinging to it beyond its time. An essential part of accepting the natural flow of relationships is learning to let go. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring about someone, or that you discard the memories or the experiences you share with them. Letting go is about releasing your attachment to the idea that things have to stay the same. It's about recognizing that people and circumstances change, and so must our expectations and attachments. Letting go allows us to heal, move forward, and make space for new experiences and connections. This can be especially challenging when we have invested a great deal of time and emotional energy into a relationship, but accepting that not all relationships are meant to last forever is key to finding peace in the face of change. When someone distances themselves or ignores you, it can be easy to become fixated on the loss or the perceived rejection. But instead of focusing on what you no longer have, try to shift your perspective to what you have gained from the relationship. Every connection, no matter how brief or transient, teaches us something. It might teach us about ourselves, about how we interact with others, or about what we truly value in relationships. Even when someone walks away, the lessons from that relationship can stay with us, helping us grow and refine the way we approach future connections. In order to accept the natural flow of relationships, it's essential to cultivate a mindset of non-attachment. Non-attachment is not the same as indifference, rather. It is the practice of engaging fully in a relationship while remaining open to its natural progression, knowing that nothing in life is permanent. When we are attached to the idea of how a relationship should be or should look, we place an unrealistic burden on the relationship, and we may unintentionally prevent it from evolving in a healthy way. By practicing non-attachment, we are able to fully enjoy the present moment of the relationship without clinging to it or trying to control its outcome. This approach allows us to experience deeper, more authentic connections, as we are no longer trying to mold the relationship into something that may not be realistic or sustainable in the long term. Non-attachment doesn't mean we don't care about the people in our lives. It simply means we stop demanding that they behave in a certain way to meet our expectations. It means releasing the pressure for things to stay the same and instead allowing relationships to flow naturally. When we stop forcing connections or holding on too tightly, we create space for those relationships to evolve or dissolve in ways that are healthy and natural. Non-attachment allows us to experience relationships as they are without the need to control or possess them. At times, the pain we feel when someone distances themselves is not just about the loss of that particular relationship, but also about a fear of being alone or abandoned. We may fear that if one relationship fades, all future connections will be similarly fleeting. However, embracing the natural flow of relationships involves recognizing that every connection is unique, and that just because one relationship changes doesn't mean others will. Instead of fearing loss, we can choose to focus on the richness of the connections we have without worrying about what may happen in the future. A crucial part of this is trusting in the process of life. Life constantly brings new people and experiences into our paths, and while some of these may be short-lived, others will last a lifetime. When we trust that the right relationships will come to us at the right time, we release the pressure to hold on to those that no longer align with our growth. This trust allows us to let go without fear or regret, knowing that new opportunities for connection and growth will always be available. Letting go of relationships that no longer serve us is not about closing ourselves off from future experiences. It's about creating space for new relationships to flourish. In accepting the natural flow of relationships, we also need to understand that it is okay to grieve when a relationship changes or comes to an end. Loss, even the loss of a friendship or a shift in a romantic partnership, can be painful. It is important to allow yourself the time and space to grieve the changes, acknowledging the emotions that come with them. Grief is a natural response to loss, and by processing our emotions, we allow ourselves to heal. Once we have processed the grief, we can move forward with greater clarity and an open heart. Ultimately, accepting the natural flow of relationships is about embracing the impermanence of life. All things, including relationships, are in a constant state of change. Some connections will remain with us for the long haul, while others will only be present for a season. Instead of clinging to what we think we should have or trying to force things to remain the same, we learn to flow with the changes, finding peace in the knowledge that each connection has served its purpose. The ability to let go, to release our attachment to specific outcomes, and to trust in the natural evolution of our relationships frees us from unnecessary heartache and allows us to experience the richness of life with an open heart and an open mind. When we experience rejection, distance, or emotional withdrawal from others, it can often feel as if the energy we invested in those relationships is wasted. We may find ourselves consumed with thoughts about why someone ignored us, why they chose to step away, or how we could have behaved differently to maintain the connection. This focus on the emotional turbulence of these situations can drain us mentally and physically, taking us further away from our true potential and purpose in life. However, it is in these moments of discomfort and disconnection that we can learn to redirect our energy towards something far more fulfilling and lasting our purpose. Redirecting your energy toward your purpose is one of the most empowering steps you can take when faced with emotional struggles or relational setbacks. Instead of dwelling on what you cannot control, the behavior of others or their decisions to distance themselves from you, you can choose to focus on what you can control: your thoughts, actions, in alignment with your purpose. By intentionally shifting your energy away from frustration, rejection, and self-doubt, and toward a greater sense of purpose and fulfillment, you not only regain your emotional balance, but also take proactive steps toward creating a life that is meaningful, purposeful, and truly satisfying. The first step in redirecting your energy toward your purpose is to discover what truly drives you. In our fast-paced, interconnected world, it's easy to get swept up in the opinions, expectations, and judgments of others. We may find ourselves prioritizing the needs and desires of people around us, often at the expense of our own happiness and sense of fulfillment. In doing so, we lose sight of what matters most to us individually. Your purpose is the deeper motivation that fuels your passions, guides your actions, and gives you a sense of direction and meaning in life. It's not necessarily about grand achievements or societal success. It's about aligning your life with what feels authentic, true, and purposeful to you. Discovering your purpose often requires introspection and self-awareness. You need to ask yourself questions like, While it can take time to fully uncover your purpose, the key is to stay curious and open to discovering what resonates with you. It's important to remember that purpose is not a fixed destination, it is an evolving process. As you grow, learn, and change, your understanding of your purpose may also evolve. The goal is not to have all the answers immediately, but to start asking the right questions and paying attention to the clues that life gives you about what brings you joy and fulfillment. Once you've begun to discover your purpose, the next step is to channel your energy into pursuits that align with that purpose. Often when relationships begin to change or when we experience emotional pain from others distancing themselves, we may feel disoriented and unsure of how to move forward. Our energy becomes scattered and unfocused as we spend our time ruminating over what went wrong or trying to figure out how to fix things that are beyond our control. Redirecting that energy towards something constructive is one of the most powerful ways to regain a sense of purpose. Instead of allowing negative emotions and thoughts to take over, focus on activities that bring you closer to your goals and passions. Whether that involves working on personal projects, pursuing a career you're passionate about, volunteering for a cause you believe in, or learning new skills, the key is to immerse yourself in things that make you feel like you are contributing to something greater than yourself. For example, if you've always wanted to start your own business, but you've put it off due to fear of rejection or failure, now might be the perfect time to take those first steps. If you've been longing to write a book or learn a new language, redirect your energy into setting concrete goals and taking action. It's important to remember that meaningful pursuits don't always have to be grand or life-changing. They can simply be activities that make you feel aligned with your inner values and passions. Even small steps in the direction of your purpose can bring a deep sense of satisfaction and fulfillment. By focusing your energy on something that excites and challenges you, you create momentum that propels you forward in life. When you are deeply connected to a purpose or goal, you stop looking outside yourself for validation, approval, or attention from others. Your sense of self-worth and emotional fulfillment come from within, and you find peace in the pursuit of your passions rather than relying on others' behaviors or reactions to define your emotional state. Redirecting your energy toward your purpose also has the powerful benefit of building emotional resilience. Life will inevitably throw challenges your way, whether in the form of relationship changes, professional setbacks, or personal struggles. However, when you are aligned with a deeper sense of purpose, you become more resilient to the fluctuations and setbacks that life throws at you. Your energy becomes less attached to the outcomes of specific relationships or situations and more focused on the larger picture of your personal growth and goals. Emotional resilience is the ability to adapt to difficult situations, bounce back from setbacks, and maintain a sense of stability and positivity in the face of adversity. When you focus your energy on meaningful pursuits, you strengthen your emotional resilience by learning to detach your sense of self-worth from external circumstances. Rather than being derailed by the actions or decisions of others, you develop a steady inner foundation that helps you stay grounded, no matter what life presents. For instance, if you've been working hard toward a professional goal and someone in your network distances themselves or becomes critical of your progress, you won't feel as shaken. You'll be able to recognize that their behavior is a reflection of their own journey and not a judgment of your worth or ability. Because you are rooted in your purpose, you'll have the emotional resilience to keep moving forward, regardless of external opinions or obstacles. Building emotional resilience through purpose also helps you develop healthier coping mechanisms when faced with challenges. Instead of turning to unhealthy distractions or seeking comfort in relationships that may no longer be supportive, you focus on activities that help you heal, grow, and stay aligned with your goals. Whether that involves practicing mindfulness, journaling, exercising, or connecting with a supportive community, these practices serve as tools to keep you centered and emotionally balanced as you navigate life's inevitable changes. While it can be painful when someone distances themselves or ignores us, it's important to see these moments as opportunities for personal growth. Rather than letting disconnection pull you into a spiral of self-doubt or frustration, view it as a signpost pointing you toward growth. The emotional energy you might have once poured into the relationship can now be directed inward, fostering personal development and progress in alignment with your purpose. The process of redirection often involves self-reflection and an opportunity to reevaluate your priorities. Are you relying too much on others for validation or emotional fulfillment? Are there aspects of your life that you've neglected because you've been too focused on external relationships? Use the time created by someone distancing themselves as a chance to deepen your connection with yourself and the pursuits that matter most to you. For example, if a close friend or family member pulls away, it may be tempting to fixate on what went wrong or obsess over how to restore the relationship. Instead, take this time to focus on your personal development. Revisit hobbies or interests that you've put on the back burner, dive deeper into your work or studies, or commit to enhancing your emotional well-being through self-care practices. The space left by someone distancing themselves provides an opportunity to reconnect with your own goals, ambitions, and passions, an opportunity you may have overlooked if you were overly focused on the needs of others. This shift in perspective, viewing disconnection as fuel for growth, helps you approach relationship challenges with a sense of empowerment rather than helplessness. When you redirect your energy toward your purpose, you are choosing to invest in yourself and your future rather than remaining stuck in emotional turmoil or disappointment. Redirecting your energy toward your purpose doesn't mean you should isolate yourself from others or avoid relationships altogether. Rather, it's about finding a healthy balance between your personal pursuits and your social connections. A life that is centered solely around work or goals can feel unbalanced, just as a life that is solely focused on relationships without purpose can feel aimless. A fulfilling life requires both meaningful relationships and a sense of purpose. While relationships provide support, companionship, and joy, your purpose serves as the guiding force that gives you direction and fulfillment. By investing energy in both areas, cultivating meaningful connections with others while also pursuing your goals and passions, you create a balanced life where you are nurtured emotionally and driven forward intellectually and spiritually. For example, maintaining supportive friendships or romantic relationships while pursuing your career, personal development, or creative passions ensures that you are not neglecting one area of your life for the sake of the other. You can find peace in the understanding that both relationships and purpose are essential components of a well-rounded, fulfilling existence. Redirecting your energy toward your purpose in times of relational or emotional upheaval is one of the most effective ways to regain a sense of control, empowerment, and fulfillment. By choosing to focus on what you can influence your personal growth, passions, and goals, you create a life that is rooted in meaning and resilience. The setbacks you encounter in relationships are opportunities for self-reflection and redirection, guiding you toward greater alignment with your true purpose. Embracing your purpose as a source of strength and motivation transforms the way you approach challenges. Instead of being consumed by the actions or reactions of others, you